Hello and welcome to the Express Debate. I'm Ian Collins. Now, the National Health Service, to many, the backbone of all things British, something that should always be saved and looked after, whatever the cost. To others, however, it is way too expensive, and only with the introduction of things like competition can it survive into the future. With me to discuss this, Andrew Haldenby, Director and Co-founder of Reform, and Caroline Molloy, Editor of OurNHS. Andrew, first of all, why do you think competition is important for the future of the NHS?
Because the NHS needs ideas. As the key NHS organisation, NHS England, said a couple of weeks ago, it cannot survive. It's that serious. It can't survive in its current form. It has to have new ideas. It has to become more efficient the way it does its business. And if we look around the world, we can see that private companies working in competition play a crucial role in helping other health systems work well, and countries like France and Germany, systems that are often seen as better than the UK.
Isn't that the issue then, Caroline? That it's a lovely idea that everything is free forever and it doesn't require any sort of private contingent to make it function, but the realities are very different.
I mean, obviously we need to pay for healthcare, and I think what patients want, what the public wants, is to know that they have quality, accessible healthcare provided in the most cost-efficient way. And actually the evidence is quite stark that the most cost-efficient way is through the NHS. It scores higher, certainly in terms of cost efficiency and in quality, than some of the other systems that Andrew's mentioned. And there's really very little evidence that competition improves quality, and there's substantial evidence that it increases cost dramatically.
Is there a fascination, Andrew, a little bit with competition? The idea that competition in of itself is something that is a panacea here, when in reality, as Caroline said, sounds good on paper, perhaps, to some people, but no evidence that it actually works.
Well, I think we have to look at the rest of society. I mean, if we take the way the economy works, 80% of the economy is private sector. 80% of it is competition. 80% of people working in competitive organisations every day of the week. So we did a poll 2 months ago which asked people, would you mind where you were treated, public, private, charity, as long as you have access to the care and as long as it's good. And 60% of people said we don't mind, and 12% of people said they did. So I respect the views of those for whom this is an ideological barrier, a line they will not cross. But I think most people are more open-minded than that.
What is the reason then, Caroline, that you are against this idea of competition? If there are, as Andrew says, plenty of examples where competition works in most of everyday life, why would it not work in the NHS?
Competition requires a marketplace. It simply doesn't work in healthcare. It's not like buying oranges in a supermarket where you or I could go in and weigh up whether that's good or bad. It's a much more complex decision that we need to have a lot of expertise to make. Do the general public want to be sort of weighing up one provider against another, assessing whether all these kind of indicators are strong enough? Do they want this very complicated infrastructure costing anywhere up to about £30 billion of a £120 billion NHS budget, purely spent on administering the market? The consequences of failure in that market are too severe. I mean, the consequences of making the wrong choice are a matter of life and death.
Isn't that one of the salient points here, Andrew, that when it comes to the NHS, people aren't really looking for competition. They don't want to shop around for where's the best place to have your hip sorted or your groin sorted out. They just want to go to somewhere, one-stop shop, called a hospital or a GP, get it sorted. All the ramifications of the competitions are of no relevance or interest to the average patient.
Well, I think here we are, a voice from the 19th century. People don't want to know things. People don't want to use the opportunities of technology to find out how good public services are. When I look at other public services, I can see people using league tables for schools all the time. I mean, can you imagine league tables being abolished for schools? I can't. There are now crime maps where we can see where crimes happen locally. The world has changed. And what we often hear, I have to say, talking to people in the health service, is that doctors know where the good hospitals are and the bad hospitals are. They will advise each other. For goodness sake, don't send your family to this hospital. They exercise choice themselves. In other countries, take a country like Germany, only a third of their hospitals hospitals are run in the public sector, 2/3 are run by other organisations, and you know, that is in order to provide better care and with an eye on efficiency as well.
Isn't there a danger, Caroline, that this country could get left behind if it doesn't if it doesn't move forward, if it doesn't progress, if it doesn't acknowledge that there are other systems it needs to embrace, and in doing so, it will in fact make the product, that of a health service, even better than it is?
I mean, of course, I would, of course, want to look and learn from examples abroad. But I think, you know, I mean, the NHS, as you alluded to in your introduction, I think it's the national institution that people have the greatest amount of pride in.
But is that the problem? Is that the problem?
There is very little evidence at all that competition improves healthcare. There is no evidence that competition with the private sector improves healthcare. And there is substantial evidence that it increases costs. To enable private provision to come in, we have to divide the NHS up into complicated competing sector organisations, hundreds and hundreds of organisations competing against each other, each one with chief executives on six-figure salaries, hospitals with chief executives earning more than the Prime Minister.
Andrew, it's quite a hard sell, isn't it, to the public? You haven't got public support on the side of this whole competition thing, really. Even whatever you think of it, it smacks of privatisation. It makes it sound as if some very rich men in grey suits are about to make lots and lots of money out of other people's misery.
Yes, the private company will make a profit, which is its way of keeping itself going and remaining sustainable, but overall, it can do it at a better cost.
Just a final question to you both. There's an election coming up, 2015, of course. Whether that government turns out to be red, blue, a mixture of the two, somewhere in the middle, or whatever kind of alliance it is, where do you think we'll be in a year's time? More competition or less?
I think more, because after the election there will then be a very fierce debate about how to make the NHS better very quickly. Okay.
Caroline, more competition or less?
I hope less, and I think that if there was any public appetite for it and if the public were heeded, there would be less. I would ask if competition was something that was genuinely in the public interest, why is it generally done so secretively, hidden under the NHS logo, very little local information?
Okay, thank you to you both. And that's it from this Express Debate. See you on the next one.